Keeping kids entertained and cutting down on screen time all at the same time. Jamie Cook with the Instagram page Wander and Scout is here to share some fun podcasts she recommends to kids. So Jamie, I want to hear, how did you get started in knowing that podcasts would be fun for you and your kids?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, and you're going to be like, how does this relate here? But growing up, my parents had a set of these books that went with cassette tapes that were like sort of like mini biographies on people in history, like Florence Nightingale and Thomas Edison. And so on Sunday afternoons, we used to listen to these audio cassette tapes. And so recently I was thinking, gosh, I wish I had those cassette tapes for my kids. And then I'm like, but I don't have a cassette player. Oh. And then it dawned on me, I listen to podcasts all the time. Surely there's got to be podcasts for kids. So I put it out there on my Instagram, Wander and Scout, and my readers are so awesome, and they came in with all of their favorite podcasts for kids. So we've started listening to them, and these are some of the ones that my readers suggested.
And so are you entertained as well as the kids, or
Absolutely.
does it, okay.
Yes, there's like so many unanswered questions that are being answered for me now, listening to kids' podcasts.
That's perfect. And so when do you listen with your kids? Like, is this in the car? Is this carpool time?
Yeah, not so much carpool time, road trips, but for sure road trips. Like Sunday afternoons, just downtime. The only thing is I've had them listening on my phone, so I have to be willing to like sacrifice my phone for the cause. So.
Right? It's a good mom right there. And I want you to tell us some of your favorites that you've noticed.
Yeah, okay, so the first one is called But Why, and it's called But Why, a podcast for curious kids. And it's this show it's led by kids, basically. And the kids call in and they ask questions, and they actually like do a voice recording and send it in, and it's the kids' questions, and then the whole podcast is like answering those questions.
I love that. We have a sample for you guys to listen in on.
You run the Infant Laughter Project. What do? You don't just tickle babies all day.
We actually don't tickle babies at all. We do research studies. So these are like little science projects where we are trying to figure out one thing. And that one thing is how babies figure out what's funny.
Interesting. So these are questions posed.
So that question was, why do we laugh? And so there's a whole podcast about why do we laugh, and the kids call in and they have jokes that they share, and then they talk about do bumblebees have hearts, and why is the sea salty, and just all the questions that your kids might ask you as a mom, and you're like, I have no idea.
Let's get back to you.
Yes.
Okay, this is perfect. And then you've got a second one, Wow in the World.
Wow in the World. This is an NPR for kids, basically. It's run by NPR. It's about science and technology, and the theme is kind of like out of this world. So there's like these characters, and they talk about science and planets and all that kind of stuff.
Let's take a listen.
I mean, you can chop them up and chop them up and chop them up, and those chopped up little worm bits will not only survive, but they'll regenerate and regrow to create entirely new whole flatworms.
You mean that if a flatworm's head becomes separated from its body, the head will grow a new body?
So how fun is it to admit that like you don't know the answers to these questions, and you're like, yeah, all adults know that.
I've seriously never felt dumber since being a mom, because I'm like, I've never really thought about earthworms' bodies being separated from their heads and what happens.
But kids do, apparently, and this is great for them to learn and maybe share these stories with kids, and then they look smart at school. So.
Totally, absolutely.
I love it. And what's your third one?
Brains On. This is by American Public Media, and this is another science one. It's really cool because it's actually co-hosted by kid scientists, and they're paired up with a reporter from public radio, and so they just have these science discussions. They're very engaging. I think anytime you have a kid that's actually reporting, it just draws my kids in even more.
Let's hear some of it.
Well, Mark, it is your turn now to hit us with some mind-blowing octopus facts.
The octopus is probably one of the most misunderstood animals on the planet. People take one look at its 8 sucker-covered arms, giant eyes, and big fur mouth and write the octopus off as creepy or gross or downright scary.
Ooh, interesting. So you get that science perspective. So it's not only just the funny questions, it's stuff that we can
It's the actual science. And one of the ones my kids loved was there was a whole episode on how to interpret cats' purrs. Oh. And we actually we have 6 cats currently. Don't judge me. We have kittens. And
Cat family.
Totally. I'm like the cat lady, guys. But my kids have loved like interpreting the kitties' purrs and what they mean and everything.
I love it. And then this last one, bedtime history. I feel like this might go along with what you were looking for in the first place.
Yes, exactly. I love this one. So these are 7-minute clips, and they're primarily about people in history. So a fun one was on George Lucas and about how he became who he became. It's just really interesting. Neil Armstrong, there was one about the Navy SEALs and how people can become a Navy SEAL. One about Mahatma Gandhi. So this is probably my favorite one, and then it's fun that they're just 7 minutes. So good for short attention spans right before bed.
Bedtime. I love it. Let's take a listen.
Stars are sort of like people in that they are born and they grow until they are bigger, and then eventually they get old and die. But unlike people, stars live for millions or even trillions of years. Our own sun is a star. It's just a lot closer than the stars we see twinkling in the sky at night that appear so small.
That's kind of soothing. I felt like I learned. Yes.
Ready for bed.
And you've got, more recommendations for people that are looking for podcasts. Where can we find those kids' activities and recommendations?
Yes, on my Instagram is Wander and Scout, and I'm going to be posting a comprehensive list of these.
Okay.
There's more than just these 4 that we shared about. So come on over to Wander and Scout, and I'll post about them.
Jamie, thanks so much for joining us. Great ideas. Okay, we're going to get into these. Thank you. And if you want to try out any of the podcasts we mentioned with your kids, you can just head over to our website, studio5.ksl.com. We'll link each podcast Jamie recommended so that they're easy to find for you at home if you're looking for them. Just go to our website, look for Podcast for Kids headline on our homepage.